The smell of roasted turkey and pine needles filled the air, but all I could feel was a knot tightening in my stomach. It was our family's annual Christmas Eve party, a night that was supposed to be filled with joy and laughter. But for me, it had become a yearly ritual of public humiliation, courtesy of my parents. You see, they had a favorite, and it wasn't me. It was my sister Jessica. Jessica was the golden child. She floated through life on a cloud of praise and expensive gifts. This year, I knew would be no different. As we all gathered around the glittering Christmas tree, my dad cleared his throat, a wide grin spreading across his face. "All right, everyone. Time for the big finale." My heart sank. I knew what was coming. He led Jessica outside, where a brand new, cherry-red Tesla Model S sat gleaming under the porch light, a giant bow on its hood. The crowd of relatives gasped and applauded. $100,000, someone whispered in awe. My mom hugged Jessica, tears of joy streaming down her face. "You deserve it, sweetie." "For being top of your class." I forced a smile, my cheeks aching from the effort. Then it was my turn. My dad handed me a small, awkwardly wrapped box. I could already feel the weight of everyone's pitying stares. I tore off the paper to reveal a cheap, plastic piggy bank, the kind you'd win at a carnival. Taped to its side was a crisp $10 bill. "Here you go, Alex," my dad said, his voice lacking any of the earlier excitement. "To help you learn the value of saving." The room fell silent. The contrast was brutal, a public declaration of my worth in their eyes. $10 versus a $100,000 car. The laughter of my cousins felt like daggers. I could hear my aunt whisper to my uncle, "Poor Alex. They're so hard on him." I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I mumbled a thank you, grabbed my pathetic gift, and fled to my room, the sound of their champagne toasts echoing behind me. Clutching the piggy bank, a hot wave of anger and shame washed over me. For years, I had tried to win their approval. I got good grades, I helped around the house, I did everything they asked, but it was never enough. I was always second best. The disappointment. That night, something inside me snapped. I looked at the $10 bill and the ridiculous plastic pig. Fine. If they wanted me to learn the value of saving, then I would. I would turn this $10 into a fortune, so big they couldn't ignore it. This wasn't just a gift. It was a challenge. And it was a challenge I was determined to win. The next morning, I woke up with a new sense of purpose. I took that $10 bill and started my journey. I went to a thrift store and bought a few old, forgotten books that I thought had potential. I spent hours at the library researching their value, cleaned them up, and listed them online. It wasn't much, but that $10 turned into $30. I reinvested it, buying more items, flipping them for a small profit. It was a slow, grueling process. I learned about online marketplaces, about negotiating, about seeing value where others saw junk. The piggy bank sat on my desk, not as a symbol of my shame, but as a reminder of my goal. Every dollar I made, I put a portion of it aside. While Jessica was cruising in her Tesla, I was up at dawn, hunting for deals at garage sales and flea markets. While she was at fancy dinners, I was eating instant noodles, saving every penny. My parents barely noticed. To them, I was just holed up in my room, being antisocial. They had no idea I was building an empire from their throwaway gift. The piggy bank slowly filled up. Then I had to get a bigger one. My first big break came when I found an old, tarnished silver tea set at an estate sale for $50. My gut told me it was special. After weeks of research and careful polishing, I discovered it was a rare antique from the 18th century. I sold it at an auction for $10,000. The feeling was electrifying. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life. But I didn't stop. I didn't buy a fancy car or clothes. I invested it. I started learning about stocks, about real estate, about small business ventures. I was obsessed. My entire life became about turning that $10 into an unignorable success. Years passed. I moved out, got my own place, and continued to build my wealth. I made mistakes, of course. I lost money on bad investments. I faced setbacks. But every time I felt like giving up, I'd look at that original plastic piggy bank, which I kept on my desk, and remember the humiliation that started it all. 5 years after that fateful Christmas, I was a different person. I had built a multi-million-dollar portfolio through sheer grit and relentless hard work. I owned several successful online businesses and a portfolio of rental properties. I had done it. I had proven them wrong. Then came the invitation. Another Christmas Eve party. For a moment, I considered not going. Why bother? But then I realized, This was the moment I had been working towards. This was the final chapter. I drove to my parents' house, not in a flashy sports car, but in a modest, reliable sedan. I walked in and the scene was familiar. The same relatives, the same festive decorations, the same undercurrent of family drama. Jessica was there, bragging about her latest promotion at a company my dad had helped her get into. My parents beamed at her. Then they saw me. "Alex, you made it," my mom said, a little surprised. "You're looking, well." Dinner was tense. They asked polite but distant questions about my little online hobbies. I kept my answers vague. Finally, the time for gifts arrived. Jessica received a diamond necklace. Then my dad turned to me. "Well, Alex, we didn't really know what to get you," he started, a familiar dismissive tone in his voice. "We know how you like to save." He handed me a small envelope. Inside was a $50 gift card. I looked at it, then looked up at my parents. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt a strange sense of closure. I calmly placed the envelope on the table. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "But I think it's my turn to give the gifts this year." Their faces registered confusion. I stood up and handed my mom an envelope. She opened it. Inside were the keys to a beachfront villa in her favorite vacation spot. She stared at them, speechless. I don't understand," she stammered. "It's yours," I said simply. "Merry Christmas." Next, I turned to my dad. I handed him a small framed document. It was the deed to the vintage sailboat he had dreamed of owning since he was a boy, a boat he always said was impossibly expensive. His jaw dropped. He looked from the paper to me, his eyes wide with disbelief. Finally, I turned to Jessica. She was staring at me, her smug expression replaced with one of shock. I handed her a check. On it, I had written the exact amount of her outstanding student loans, down to the penny. "So you can be truly independent," I said softly. The room was dead silent. The only sound was the crackling of the fire. My parents were still staring at their gifts, unable to process what was happening. "How?" My dad finally managed to ask, his voice trembling. "How is this possible?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, worn object. I placed it on the center of the dining table. It was the cheap, plastic piggy bank. Next to it, I placed a $10 bill. "You gave me this 5 years ago," I said, my voice ringing with clarity. "You told me to learn the value of saving. So I did. You challenged me and I accepted. Everything you see tonight, it all started with this. With $10 and a lesson I took to heart." The looks on their faces were a mixture of shock, awe, and, for the first time, a glimmer of respect. The $100,000 Tesla parked outside suddenly seemed small and insignificant. In that moment, I wasn't the forgotten son anymore. I had become the man who built an empire from nothing, who turned their insult into my greatest triumph. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had earned my own. And that was the best Christmas gift of all. Thank you for listening. If my story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content. See you next time.